The first step to set up master file is to create departments. To do this, select Department under Master File. Click Create New. Enter your department code and name. And click Save. When you are done creating all your departments, the next step is to create designation. To do this, select Designation and click Create New. Enter the code and designation name, for example as shown, and click Save. Next is Public Holiday. It is the function where you can define all your public holiday. It is recommended to create the public holidays at the beginning of the year so that the remark will appear as PH in the transaction page when the day is a public holiday. You are required to key in manually for the holidays every year as holidays are usually different. To do this, select Public Holiday under Master File and click Create New. Select the date of holiday, key in holiday name and select Public Holiday as reason. When you are done, click Save. Next, I will talk about reason. It is the function where you can define all your reason or company leave type. As you can see, there are already predefined reasons listed in the software. If you want to create more for your company, go to Create New and fill in accordingly. Click Save when you are done. Next, if you have sub-departments, you can divide them by using section. For example, under the Sales and Marketing department, the staffs consist of Sales team and Marketing team. In this case, you can create two sections which are Sales and Marketing. To do this, click Create New. Key in section code, for example Sales, and section name, Sales Team. Click Save when you are done. Next I will explain about shift. I will guide you in the software for this section. Select Shift under Master File. Click Create New to create your shift. When you have arrived at this page, key in your shift code and shift name. For example, I will key in Office as shift code, and Office Shift 800-1700 as the name of shift. Now, for the lateness calculation, if you input for example 10 minutes in the grace period, your worker will not be considered late for work if he or she comes to work within 10 minutes of their start working timing. You can leave it blank if you do not provide grace period. Next, for deduction, how many minute will be deducted for per minute lateness. For example, based on the settings, 1 minute will be deducted for per minute late. For early out calculation, if you input 10 minutes for grace period for example, your worker is allowed to leave work 10 minutes before end work timing. Similarly, you can leave it blank if you do not provide grace period. For deduction, the calculation is the same as the previous section. Based on this setting, 1 minute will be deducted for per minute early out. Now for overtime, if you input for example 60 minutes dinner break, this duration of 1 hour will be deducted in the OT if an employee works overtime. You can leave it blank if you do not provide. Next I will explain about rounding settings. In the settings, rounding off time is 15 minutes. So if a worker did OT below 15 minutes, no OT will be added in his account. The table below can guide you to understand the rounding off concept. Minimum overtime is the minimum time the employee have to work to consider OT. If you put 30 minutes as minimum OT, workers that did OT below 30 minutes will not be accounted for overtime. Check early OT if you do provide overtime to your workers if they come to work early. After finishing the above settings as per your requirement, you can enter your shift day details below as per your need. Time in and time out is the start and end work timing for the workers. Day change is the maximum time a worker, including OT, is allowed to work with particular shift. As per the above setting, a worker is allowed to work from 8 a.m. to next day 5 a.m. If he or she works more than 5 a.m., then it will be accounted as next shift. It is recommended that day change may be less than 2 hours from time in or greater than time out. Indicate your lunch timings over here. NRM is normal working hour. It is in 100th decimal format. For example, 60 minutes is accounted as 100 and for 30 minutes it is accounted 50. Check off if the day is off day. And check the OT accordingly if you provide the OT rate on that day. Next, if you want to give 2 different level of OT for a single day, select extra checkbox and key in the rate here. Max hours is the maximum hour a worker has to work to get extra rate. If you want to give 2 different level of OT for workers who work during public holiday, you can input the rate under PH and key in the maximum hours a worker has to work under PH max. If you provide allowance to the workers who work during public holidays, you can key in the rate under PH1. Lastly, select the shift allowance below from drop-down menu if you do provide allowance for that particular shift. When you are done with the shift settings, click Save. The last step in master file is to create staff. To do this, select Staff under Master File and click Create New. Key in your staff details accordingly. Input your employee payroll code or any code to define your employee profile. If you are creating a profile for yourself as the administrator, the employee code will be your user ID and password by default. Password can be changed under Settings. Next, key in employee name and select department, position, section, and shift. Select Normal under OT type. For card number, it must be the same number that you assign your staff in the machine. For example, if your staff machine ID is 10,001, the card number must be 10,001. Data will not be generated if both numbers are different. You are only required to key in the details indicated with a red star in order to complete the staff profile. Other information is for your own reference. Once you have completed the staff profile, click Save when you are done. You can also set the allowance such as attendance, health, transport, or meal allowance here. I will explain more about allowance settings in another video. After you have created and set up your master file, you are ready to view and edit the transactions and print reports.